Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
What up? Oh, for sure.
Go there.
In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you weak. And then they gag you. You don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit the leak. The masters of the masses, they want this shit to street. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Playing on the regular.
You keep the messenger.
Free speech is the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people want the red, while the blue you keep them in bed. Seeking the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leech till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freeze of red sheep. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. Women stacks, women stacks, women stacks is your creditor.
You keep the messenger.
Outside my window, a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence of my risky tweets, what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace, like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace, like 7 years under threat. Cause I released 7 vaults, they upset, they ended the rape sentence. But the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. And they'll pay the Gandhi, take him and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life, make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. You kill the messenger.
You kill the messenger.
Democracy dies in the darkness.
Darkness.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? I'm coming to you. Well, right now there are protests in London, the UK, in Paris, France, in Quito, Ecuador, in Barcelona, Spain, and in Hong Kong. Right now, all those protests in all those countries against, let's face it, neoliberal governments. Meanwhile, in the UK, what are they saying? On Twitter? What are all the liberals doing on Twitter? That's right. They're trying to get Piers Morgan sacked because he identified as a penguin in a version of the attack helicopter joke. That's what they're doing. Attacking Piers Morgan and saying to anybody who is holding Jeremy Corbyn's feet to the fire, "Why are you working for Boris Johnson?" I'm back today from London. I was there the weekend. I was going to cover the Extinction Rebellion protests, but a couple of things. First of all, as you can probably see by my leaning, my back's knackered. I'm actually wearing a brace right now. You can probably see it. I'm not wearing a bra. It's a brace for my back to hold it in place. Shit. Instant karma for making a joke. Yeah, so yeah, I'm in pain, so this won't be a massive long stream, unfortunately. And that is really, really. Anybody who knows back pain and knows what it's like when you've got a trapped nerve, yeah, that's what I'm in at the moment. SH Spurs 1 said, I noticed some commented to me on an Ellen Trump video that they hated the Bushes for a long time, but now they're the good guys because they are friendly with Obama and they all hate Trump. That's the world we live in, unfortunately, SH Spurs. It's Trump derangement syndrome. We've got it over here with Boris Johnson, with Bojo derangement syndrome, as I've just said. You know, they will attack anybody who is saying something that goes against their liberal beliefs. You know, some right-wing commentator, well, he's not even a right-wing commentator, some, let's face it, professional troll on TV says a version of the attack helicopter joke, which has been around now for, I think, quite a while, about 5 years. You know, I identify as X. And they lose their shit. A few months ago, or about a month ago, they were trying to get Laura Kuenssberg sacked for being a shit journalist rather than stand up for Julian Assange for being the world's best. Gives you some idea of the liberals in our country. Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome, same over here. Boris Johnson derangement syndrome, whatever you call it. Honestly, I'm done with I'm done with Brexit. I really am. Wake me up when they announce there's going to be a second referendum, because they will, as I've said all along. If not, I'll hold my hand up and say I was wrong. I was right up until that point. So yeah, I'm back from London, where I was going to cover the Extinction Rebellion, but I didn't, because two reasons. First of all, my back's in a pretty bad way, but the main reason is I dropped my phone on Sunday and cracked it. It still works, I think. It still does, but yeah, I've had it 3.5 years and I cracked it. Just bear me a second. My dog wants to say hello. What? What? Lie down. Lie down. Lay down. Sorry about that. She's right by my feet and just looking at me and wagging her tail, and I'm not going to get rid of her, unfortunately. So, yeah, and I dropped my phone, and I hadn't seen my girlfriend for like, I think 10 or 11 days anyway, so we had some family stuff. But I will be back down there this weekend, and I'll talk a little bit more as to why I'm going down there this weekend. It's because of Monday, as I just mentioned in the chat to Liam. I'll cover that in a bit. Those protests, by the way, the Extinction Rebellion protests, they are going on, I think, for quite some time. It looks like it, but they've been banned. They were banned last night. The Met Police just said, no, that's it. After 9 o'clock, we're going to ban them. Just on their own, just went, no, we're going to ban them. We're going to ban protests. We're going to ban peaceful protests. Imagine if Vladimir Putin did that in Russia. Imagine if Putin just said, no, that's it. Citywide ban in Moscow. Or rather, even if not if Putin did it, even if just his police did it, you guarantee the press would say Putin did it. This is the latest on it. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has said this: I've asked Met Office to find a way for those who want to protest the climate emergency to be able to do so legally and peacefully in London. I've received assurances that Extinction Rebellion are not banned from protesting in our city. My full statement. So which is it, Sadiq? The police say it's banned. You say it's not. As usual, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So, oh, sorry about that, pressed the wrong button. So, as I said, as I mentioned, I was on my way to cover the Extinction Rebellion and dropped my phone, which pissed me off no end. And I've got to go back this weekend to cover Assange's court appearance on Monday. More about that in a minute. As you no doubt know, though, especially if you watch this channel, Julian Assange is being kept in Belmarsh prison after serving his time for violating bail, an extortionate 50-week sentence, of which he's served over half his sentence, so he is eligible now for release. He should be released. It means that he's now a political prisoner. There's no arguments about it. He's a political prisoner, just as people like me have been saying for years, and people like the media have been saying no, he's not for years, and they still won't come out and say he's a political prisoner. But regardless, he is. He's also in solitary confinement in Belmarsh prison, with his every move through the prison being done in a controlled way so he doesn't meet anybody in it. So you know that they're doing that maybe to protect him. Who knows? Because let's face it, he is with our worst kind of people that are locked up in Belmarsh. It is our Guantanamo Bay. There were terrorists in there. For instance, the terrorist who nigh on decapitated Lee Rigby when he killed him in the street is in that prison. Yes, that's the company Julian Assange is keeping right now. But anyway, he's been isolated from all ability to defend himself against this superpower that's coming after him, whilst we isolate him in our Guantanamo Bay. He's got no access to a computer, no access to a library, and he's just allowed 2 visits a month, and it takes weeks to get any visitors vetted and on the list. Even contacts with his lawyer are limited, and he has to battle with every other inmate for the ability to phone his lawyers. Even his contacts with his lawyers are limited on time. Quite simply, he can't mount a defence. The United Kingdom, the authorities, have thrown the rule of law out the window to hand him over to the United States because he proved that they were war criminals and lied to cover up their criminal activity. And we did that. They asked us to throw a journalist in jail for doing good journalism. And we did it. It's a bit one-sided, this special relationship isn't it? Between the US and UK. I mean, we drag a publisher out of his asylum in an act of fascism to appease the United States. But this young man, Harry Dunn, who was hit head on in a collision by a US spy's wife. Yes, he's not a diplomat. He's just a spy's wife. He's not a diplomat. She doesn't get diplomatic immunity. Despite what the BBC are telling you, they are lying to you. He doesn't have diplomatic immunity, therefore neither does she. But she killed that kid head on, driving on the wrong side of the road, and then absconded to the United States after speaking to police and promising that she wouldn't do that. And Donald Trump has said, nah, no chance. She's not coming back. It's a bit one-sided, this relationship, isn't it? We drag a journalist out of his asylum in an act of fascist for them. One of their own, one of their people, one of the Americans kill a kid in an act of, let's face it, driving without due care and attention, at the very minimum. No repercussions whatsoever. That's our special relationship. They tell us to go fly a kite when a US spy's wife kills a kid and then buggers off back to America. And we say, can we, have her back to, speak to the police at all about what happened to this young 19-year-old kid who was killed in a head-on collision because that woman was driving on the wrong side of the road? Can we? No chance. Oh, by the way, can you throw that publisher in prison who's the best journalist the world had ever seen? Oh, yeah, no problem. No problem. Yes, sir. Basically, how can people say that we're not America's lapdog? Just look at the facts. Look at the way they treat us compared to how we are treated by them. Sorry, how we treat them. Anyway, I know all about these injustices that Julian Assange faces because he told me in a letter. He wrote me a letter back in June, you might remember. You see, letters are the only thing that Julian has to pass the time in there as he awaits the UK court system's show trial in February. He's basically sitting there in solitary confinement, which is torture, and all he's got are the letters from supporters for him to read and respond to. That's his only way he can fight back against this huge empire that he's trying to get their hands on him for proving that they are war criminals and covered it up. He's only got these letters to read. That's all he's got. Well, for 3 months, it seems, he didn't even have that. This is a letter that he wrote to somebody that's been published. He thanks the person who's sent them who sent him a letter, and he said, I am the whale, but you are the surface and have grasped the line. P.S. Belmarsh Prison put all my mail somewhere they couldn't find for the last 3 months. JPA, Belmarsh, Londonistan, UK. Couldn't find his letters for 3 months. 3 months. Remember, that's the only thing he's got. Is his letters. That's all he's got to read are his letters. It's the only thing he's got to keep him sane, to keep his spirits up whilst, these two superpowers, three if you include, three powers if you include Swindon, are all ganged up on him to try and get him. And, obviously Ecuador and along with that and Australia, so that's 5 countries have conspired to, well, let's remind you of what Nils Melzer said, shall we? This is something he said. Nils Melzer, remember, he's the United Nations expert, their rapporteur on torture. He said, when you have a judicial system that prosecutes whistleblowers, or let alone journalists that have exposed serious crimes, but they don't prosecute the exposed crimes which are much more serious, then you clearly don't have equality before the law. Something else he said. Assange was imprisoned for more than 6 years under the permanent sword of Damocles over extradition to the United States and was constantly threatened and humiliated by the media, politicians, and after the exchange of government in Ecuador, increasingly by embassy staff. As a direct consequence, he now suffers from severe chronic anxiety, neurological symptoms, and post-traumatic stress syndrome. Like I said, that's Niels Meltzer, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture. Torture is his level, that's his field of expertise. He said this when at the end of his report on Assange, because when he went there, he was just as clueless as the ordinary person on the street as to what Julian Assange represents and what he did. He said this: in the end, it finally dawned on me that I had been blinded by propaganda and that Assange had been systematically slandered to divert attention from the crimes he exposed. Once he had been dehumanized through isolation, ridicule and shame, just like the witches we used to burn at the stake, it was easy to deprive him of his most fundamental rights without provoking public outrage worldwide. And thus, a legal precedent is being set through the back door of our own complacency, which in the future can and will be applied just as well to disclosures by The Guardian, The New York Times, and ABC News. ABC News, who was just caught fabricating some lies about Syria. That's what the United Nations expert on torture says. You know, it's unreal. It really is. I mean, I don't even know how they can pretend that they're not torturing this man. How they can pretend they're not treating him in an inhumane way. This is something else Niels Meltzer said. The United States wants to make an example of Assange in jail. Well, they certainly are, aren't they? They're not even giving him his letters now for a period of 3 months. I wondered why he didn't reply to my second letter. I thought he hasn't replied. Why is that? Did it get to him? Did he just forget that he sent me a letter? You know, obviously he's in a dire situation there. No, it turns out he probably didn't get it, just as I thought the case would be. He's isolated there. You know, with regards to the torture of Assange and the way the United Kingdom, the United States are torturing him, let's face it, they would rather he just die in prison. At least when Saudi Arabia killed Khashoggi, the torture and his pain was over quick. This is a slow, drawn-out murder of a journalist for proving war criminals were war criminals and that they lied to cover up their war criminal activity. It's absolutely disgusting. And our country is doing it. His next court appearance is on Monday, the 21st of October, which is 6 days from now. That's Monday coming up. Please, if you can, be there. Bring a friend. Bring as many friends as you can. I honestly can't state this enough. This is important. This is the biggest threat to press freedom the world has ever faced. Let me say that again. This is important. This is the biggest threat to press freedom that the world has ever faced in an era when the fourth estate is needed more than ever to expose the corrupt elite who will strip every freedom you have to keep their secrets and to hold on to their power. The only way we can stop this from happening, we have to do it as well, the people, is by pressuring them to do the right thing. We have the power. Let's put it to good use and let's start pressuring the MPs to do the right thing. And let's start making some noise. Because if we don't stand up to this, let's face it, act of fascism right now in huge numbers, it won't just end in Julian Assange's death. It will be the death of democracy in the West. It's that important. I'll see you there on Monday. I hope, everyone. Bring a friend. I think that's you, isn't it, Liam? Isn't that you, mate? There I am. And there's the wonderful Emmy. Yeah, 21st of October, Monday. Please be there. Bring a friend. It's really important. I will be there. I'm going to go down on Friday because I can't get a train down on the weekend because they cost about 50 quid or something like that, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to go down on Friday. I'll cover the Extinction Rebellion on Friday. And then on Monday, I'll stream live. Now, I'm hoping I'm going to stream live, but I don't know whether my phone is going to do it now because I've cracked the screen and what have you, but I'm hoping I will. Hoping it will. Quickly check the stream. Just checking the Tony Blair signed the one-sided extradition treaty with USA. It is still the law, says SH Spurs. He did. It was back in 2003, I think it was. On the back of the Patriot Act, no doubt. Heard that Ecuador has stopped their loan today, so it should be a rewind on his dragging out of the embassy, said Cassidy. We shall see. I don't think it will. I mean, they can't put that genie back in the bottle. The Assange genie. Moreno can't. But at least they've reversed their... Ecuador have reversed their decision on these IMF loans. I covered it in my live stream last week. There were indigenous people from outside, from the not just the cities, but outside in the outside of the cities, who are indigenous people. You did the right to call them that, and they marched towards the city. There were millions, like millions. I say millions. There were thousands and thousands of them. And they got towards the city Friday, Saturday, and next thing you know, Moreno had fled the city with his cabinet, and they'd moved his government out of the capital city. It's the equivalent of Boris Johnson moving his government out of London. It was that serious, and now they've backtracked on these IMF loans. I'm going to do a video about it. It'll be interesting to see what happens next with Moreno, because the Ecuadorians are not going to stop there. They know that he's not on their side. And unlike the United Kingdom, it seems they actually want to do something about it. It's nice to see Kevin Turvey back on the screen, says Wishfix. My accent's not that bad, is it? Kevin Turvey was a character from Rick Mail. Somebody said stream's not working. It did just glitch, DD. Let me just check. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, it's glitching. Okay, I think that's okay now. When exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you are being ruled by criminals, says Big Daz 7272, quoting Edward Snowden. I'm reading his book. I'm halfway through it, Edward Snowden's book. I've got is it Amazon Audible or whatever it is, like £8, and I get an Audible book every month from it. This month it's Edward Snowden that I've got. I've got another one to read for next month actually that I think Hoodie Woman Louisiana put me onto, but I've got that too. His book is astounding. It's astounding. I know a lot about the Five Eyes and the way the spies have basically, the ability to check everything that we've ever done. But he starts out the book with a real profound statement. His generation, sort of the one a little bit younger than me, they were the last generation to not have their childhood online. They were the last generation to not have their whole lives for the government for the establishment to have a permanent record of everything they've done. Every search query that they've put into Google, every website that they've been on, every email they've sent, everything that they've done online, the government has it. So if ever you become a problem, into the history they will go. And Snowden says, he hasn't said it so far in his book, but Snowden says he's guilty of constructing this. He's guilty of it, and he knows, and he hasn't said it so far in his book, but I'm sure he will, because I've only read half of it. But he's said multiple times the spying that the British do on their own people is far and above what the Americans do on theirs. So it'll give you some sort of insight into how bad things are. There is a permanent record that they can go and look at anytime they want. Certainly get rid of troublemakers, won't it? People saying they're blocked, and I can see them. Right, where was I? Like I say, I'm not going to be around long tonight, guys, because my back is really hurting. I cover news from around the world, including American politics, for those of you who are new to this channel. And people who watch this channel, among others, in progressive news and those news outlets on YouTube that aren't bought by corporations like CNN and MSNBC are, Tulsi Gabbard missed the third Democratic debate, the one just gone, because the news networks, who we know works hand in glove with the DNC in 2016, thanks WikiLeaks, thanks Julian Assange, used polls as the benchmark, as the criteria, which, let me start that again. Because I'm going to drop this video. I got a twinge in my back and it totally threw me. Oh, God. Sweating now. So for new viewers, I cover politics from around the world, and world events really, not just with politics. And people who watch this channel, among other channels out there, will know that Tulsi Gabbard, who is running for president, running to be the DNC's pick for president in the Democratic debate, she missed the last Democratic debate, the third debate, because the news networks, CNN, MSNBC, CNN at the time, I think, who we know works hand in glove with the DNC in 2016, thank you WikiLeaks, these news organisations, CNN, used polls which the benchmark for the criteria as to, who qualifies for these debates was polling, and they pick and chose certain polls, meaning that she didn't she didn't get the 3% that she needed to, I think, in 4 polls that they picked, and therefore she missed the debates. Now, even though she qualified in like 26 or 28 other polls, it didn't matter to them. They don't want her on there. And as I've said before, they don't want her on there because of her foreign policy and her anti-regime change war stance. Well, Tulsi doesn't take things lying down, and although they may have, rigged things so she missed that debate, she's going to fight back. Now remember, she's already suing Google for banning her team from her ad campaign, from the Google Ads account, at the same time as she was trending #1 during one of the debates. I think she was trending #1 in both debates. So she's suing Google over that. And she also was considering boycotting the 4th debate because of the way they are rigging things against her. Here's a video She says, I am seriously considering boycotting October the 15th debate, which is tonight, by the way, to bring attention to the DNC corporate media's effort to rig the 2020 primary. Not against Bernie this time, but against voters in early states, Iowa, New Hampshire, and just show you what she says.
I want to thank all of you so much for your support. I need to share something with you that's very important. There are so many of you who I've had the opportunity to meet in Iowa and New Hampshire who've expressed to me how frustrated you are that the DNC and the corporate media are essentially trying to usurp your role as voters in choosing who our Democratic nominee will be. I share your concerns, and I'm sure that all of our supporters throughout the country do as well. Now, the 2016 Democratic primary election was rigged.
I'd just like to say this. How refreshing is it to hear a Democrat come out and tell the truth? Remember, she's a Democrat. She came out and told the truth there. I don't know many others who come out. I don't even know Bernie says it was rigged in 2016. Even Bernie, I don't think, says that. She's got the guts to. It's nice, isn't it? Somebody telling the truth, a politician who tells the truth.
By the DNC and their partners in the corporate media against Bernie Sanders. In this 2020 election, the DNC and the corporate media are rigging the election again, but this time it's against the American people in the early voting states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. They're attempting to replace the roles of voters in the early states using polling and other arbitrary methods, which are not transparent or democratic.
And that's how they rigged it so she wasn't on the debates.
And they're holding so-called debates, which really are not debates at all, but rather commercialized reality television meant to entertain rather than to inform or enlighten. So in short, the DNC and the corporate media are trying to hijack the entire election process. So in order to bring attention to this serious threat to our democracy and to ensure that your voice is heard, I'm seriously considering boycotting the next debate on October 15th. I'm going to announce my decision within the next few days. But I just want to say with my deepest and warmest aloha, thank you all again for your support. So
she was considering dropping out of the debates. Now, some people have been saying this was a ploy to try and get other people on board with her, to get, you know, all the lower people like Cory Booker and Amy Klobuchar and that sort of thing to join with her and say, no, we're boycotting as well. Some people are saying it was a ploy. I don't know about that. Honestly, I think she might have really been seriously considering it, because she's not going to get a fair whack on that debate stage anyway. However, the news is she is actually going to be on the debate stage. I will be attending the debate, she says. So she'll be there tonight. And here's my prediction. You can probably read it up there. She will not just bring up Syria and the regime change wars and how stupid it is for America's involvement in them, but she'll also mention that she'll pardon Assange and Edward Snowden. And I will also like to say, I'll make another prediction in that she's the most searched candidate again tonight, especially if she does that. And honestly, I'm calling it now. I think she's going to. Because if she does, when she does mention they both should be pardoned, the Democratic establishment are going to shit themselves. They really are. The Democrats hate Assange, remember. They hate him. They used to love him. But then he outed them. He didn't, he wasn't just outing Republicans. He wasn't just outing Republican war crimes and war crimes that Bush presided over in Afghanistan. He started outing the corruption within the Democratic National Committee. And obviously, let's face it, he proved that they were all liars. He proved that their primary in 2016 was a rigged primary. He proved that Hillary basically had bought the DNC and the DCCC and the campaign finances scams that were done so she could get more money into her campaign. He exposed them all as war criminals, Obama too, let's face it, and Clinton. Exposed that they were complicit in torture. He exposed that they were part of the permanent state. And of course, he exposed that their emails during the 2016 election, and the DNC, they hate him because they think that without us finding out the truth, Hillary Clinton would have won the election in 2016. I dare say that may be the truth. I dare say that maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back for many people, proving that the DNC were all liars. I, for one, think that was great, that was proved. Tulsi is on record, though. Tulsi's on record as saying that she would pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. I think it was on the Joe Rogan show I heard it first. He's Joe Rogan's podcast. But she said it again. She's reiterated it again in the last week, I've heard. And I wouldn't be surprised if she said the same thing about Chelsea Manning, of course. Chelsea Manning, who is at the moment in prison for not testifying against her publisher. And it's honestly unreal what's happening, and the media was silent on it. The DNC will hate it if she mentions that she would pardon Snowden and Assange. Even Bernie hasn't got the balls to do that. Let's face it. Corbyn isn't saying much over here. Tulsi is over there. The DNC will shit themselves and they'll hate it if she mentions that, which is exactly why I think she's going to tonight. So watch out for it, because if she does, I'll be applauding from 6,000 miles away so loud, she might very well be able to bloody hear me. You heard it here first. I think she will. I think she's going to bring them up tonight at the debate. Let me know what you think in the chat. Bluebell 51 says, I'm thinking that nominating the most hated candidate in the history of the Democratic Party probably had a little to do with it. Yeah, I think that was probably the most. I think that probably had a lot to do with it, to be honest. I think maybe, proving once and for all that the DNC were rigged and corrupt and publishing their emails in the way they did. I think that may well have tipped it over the edge. We'll never know. One thing I'm for sure, had they not rigged that primary against Bernie and Bernie won, you would have President Bernie Sanders now. There's no way Trump beats Bernie. He might now. He wouldn't have in 2016. Gordon, did you see the ABC fake so-called Syria video, says SH Spurs 1? Yes, I did. They trying to publish video to say, oh, look what Turkey's doing in Syria, and it was from somewhere totally else, from somewhere totally different years ago, from like 2015 or something. Just total fake news. If I got caught doing that on this channel, if they saw me doing that, they would probably kick me off YouTube. They would find a reason to kick me off YouTube. ABC, they apologise. Move on straight away. What's next on impeachment? What they say. The thing I've got a video I've got to do about Turkey. I wanted to prepare it today for this live stream, but honestly, I've been in too much pain with my back. But I want to do a video about it because there are certain things that the media in this country are not talking about, and that they will put a little video on its own and expect you to get the context from it, and then do 5 articles about something else. I find it interesting that these people that they are now saying are committing this mass genocide in these PKK or whatever they're called, these factions in Syria. They're all saying, oh, they're committing genocide against the Kurds. It's like, hold on a minute. A few months ago, you were calling them moderate rebels in Syria. Why aren't you calling them moderate rebels now? Oh, right. It's because it's ISIS and Al-Qaeda, isn't it? Their name changes as to which side they're fighting against. I'll do a video about the Syria stuff, hopefully tomorrow. I'll try and, put the record straight. I assume that most of my videos know what's going on there, and they know the intricacies. They know that Erdogan's got 3.6 million, some say more, refugees in his country, from countries that America and us by proxy have been bombing for the last 20 years or whatever it is. 3.6 million. EU owe him 6 billion euros that they said they were going to give him, won't give it him. He's going into Syria now, northern Syria, because a lot of those refugees are Syrian and he wants to send them home and they want to go home. Like I say, I will try and explain it better in a video tomorrow rather than butcher it tonight, but things are not as cut and dry over in northern Syria as the media certainly are giving you the impression. Zoxilix says Bernie has to go after Warren tonight as well as Tulsi. The field is full with 13 people, no chance. Bernie won't go after Tulsi. I think Tulsi's going to be Bernie's running mate if he wins. If they don't rig it against him. I'm still hopeful that Bernie will get the nomination. He won't go after Tulsi. There's no way. There's no reason for him to go after it. The Cat 2L says the Grey Zone covered that in their latest vid. I'm going to try, actually. I'm going to reach out and try and see if Ben will come on again and explain it with me. He's got more knowledge than me on these things, so I'll see if Ben Norton from the Grey Zone will come on, although I expect he's extremely busy now, especially with his YouTube channel and what have you. Gordon Dimmack says Bluebell 51 says the war is now old enough to fight in a war. Yeah, the war in Afghanistan is old enough, almost, to go to war in Afghanistan. I haven't got much for you tonight, guys. I'm sorry, my back is really in pain. I do want to show you this though. Islington Conservatives. Great initiative. Do you remember Mental Health Day? It was last week or the week before. Great initiative by the Conservatives. Anyone with any mental health problems should be neutered and helped because every mind matters. Neutered. The Tories are just coming out and saying blatantly, this is what we think now. You know, there's no veil with them at all. Apparently they meant nurtured and it was a spelling error, but at least the Tories are being honest for once. That's all I've got. Let me just check the super chats, make sure I haven't had any coming in. I don't think so. Bernie needs to go after Warren, says down in Levy. Yeah, the other person says it said Warren as well. If I was Bernie, should he go after anybody? Should he go after anyone? I think he should just concentrate on his message, because there's there's a guy I believe on stage. Is it what's his name now? Steyer, I think he's. Oh, I've forgotten his name now. Stoyer or something like that. He's basically just bought his way on there. I'd say go after him because I think didn't he send a tweet out the other day? Bernie just tax the billionaires. Maybe you should go after that. Bernie's got to have a good night tonight. He's got to bounce back from his heart attack, because otherwise the media are going to write him off. And not enough people watch independent media in America. They all watch CNN and MSNBC by the look of it. And certainly if they go to YouTube, YouTube are going to push CNN and MSNBC on them. I've got to do a video about that as well. Right. I want to mention something about the early day motion letters before I go. Thanks to everybody that's done that sent the letter trying to force this early day motion. It's not necessarily the early day motion and getting people to sign that's the most important thing. The most important thing is getting the response from the MP to see what they're saying. Now, I've had some responses from people and I'm checking them, and it looks to me at least, in a cursory reading of the ones that have been forwarded to me, that all of the Tories are giving bog standard answers. They're just changing a few words. It's the Labour MPs and the Lib Dem MPs that are all over the place with lies and just total inaccuracies and untruths, etc. So it's interesting that the Tories are all on page and giving very little away in their responses, and not much really you can attack them on. They're certainly not giving much away with regards to inaccuracies. But Labour MPs and Lib Dems, wow, some of their responses have been eye-opening, to say the least. I read one out last week, didn't I, on my channel, and it's quite frightening, just how inept these politicians are and how misinformed they are, especially when you think that this is the opposition. This is the opposition that we've got to this authoritarian who's working for, well, I mean, the media say he's working for hedge funds. It's the opposition that are falling down on their narrative with regards to a free press and freedom and the rule of law and journalism, etc., and sovereignty. It's the opposition that are falling down, and that perhaps that explains why the United Kingdom is in such a shit state at the moment. Not because our government are crap, we know they are, but the opposition's even worse. Shame. I wish Bernie would stop saying Elizabeth Warren is my close friend. He needs to distance himself from her, says Mike Fagan. I think their time will come when Warren and Bernie clash, but I can't see it happening tonight. I really can't. I think Bernie's just going to get his message out there rather than attack anybody. We'll see. We'll see. You know, if he attacks anybody, they can always come back with, you know, his fitness, etc. And some of them will. Some of them will have no problem doing that. I hope not. Try some gentle yoga for your back, says Sea Wanderer. It really helps to extend your spine and extend the gaps between the vertebrae. That relieves tension. Swimming also could help. Great show. Keep going. Thank you very much, sweet Sea Wanderer. Yes, I do. I do yoga, although I haven't been doing as much since the weather's been shit. I usually do it over the field when I'm walking the dog. Ellie runs around and I do it in the middle of the pitch looking like a right twat for anybody walking past me, but I don't care. But since the weather's took a turn, I haven't been out there doing yoga, and this is the result. I've had to put this back brace on. She's basically holding me all together at the moment. And even just doing that is hurting. Right, I'm going to get off. I shall... I'll probably watch the debates in the morning. I'll do a video on that tomorrow. I'll do a video on the Syria situation as well. And I'll drop these two things that I did tonight. Please, Monday, if you can, get down there. If you can't get down there, write the letter to your MP, you know, support that early day motion, get them responding, get them on record so we can, you know, at least follow them up and get some facts and correct the record with regards to their lies, because this is serious. This is the biggest threat to press freedom that we've ever seen in the world. Can't state it. I can't overstate that. I really can't. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm off to my second job. Take care, good, and keep up the good work, says Mike Fagan. Wow. The state we're in. You go, mate. I hope you have a great night. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Please, click through to the website, find out ways you can support me. I need a new phone now. I really was hoping I could hold on to that for another 6 months, but yeah, I need your help. Support independent media, because if the corporate media have their way, you won't know anything that's going on in this world in 2 years' time. You really won't. You won't have a clue what's going on in 2 years if we don't stand up to this right now. And the world is taking a turn. The next few decades are going to be massive. And if we let these fascist dictators, let's face it, have their say and have say over what we see and what we read and what information comes to us, forget it. Democracy, human rights, civil liberties, fourth estate, they're gone. Gone. We've got no chance. They will just barrel forward with their policies, and humanity will suffer. Can't say that. Can't overstress it. I really can't. Thanks very much, everybody. Peace. I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow with a live stream. How's that? I'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock for a live stream. And I might go live on Thursday as well. Make up for the fact that this has been a short stream. What'd you say, El? Yeah? She's happy. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace. And take care.